What's going on, everybody? So today I'll be going over if I think that Honkai Star Rail's endgame is too difficult or if it's fine the way it is. Do they need to ease up the difficulty just a little bit, right? Now, I'm gonna get this out of the way immediately, and this is going to be extremely controversial, but I think that Honkai Star Rail's endgame is just perfectly fine the way it is. Maybe a couple tweaks could be done, which I will talk about in a little bit, but I think that for the most part, the endgame is perfectly fine. I am fully free to play, entirely free to play, yet after playing the game since the night that it dropped, I have been able to comfortably clear the end game. It was a little bit difficult in, the earlier years for me, but eventually I did get the hold of it. As soon as I developed some skill, right, with the characters that I already have, I was able to consistently clear the end game perfectly fine. I actually consider it to be mostly easy. There are a little bit, there are some times where I may have to, find some alternative solutions to clear the end game. I did do a live stream of this most recent Apocalyptic Shadow quite literally just yesterday, and it was actually really easy once I got the hang of it, once I knew which characters to run and how to run their rotations. But actually gathering up what team comps to use was a little bit difficult. It took me 10 attempts, entirely, right? For some people they can clear it a lot better. I did get a decent amount of points. I did get max stars, which is all that matters at the end of the day. So what am I getting at here, right? Because I'm just yapping. I think that Honkai Star Rail's endgame boils down to skill more than, skill a lot, there's a lot more skill involved than what people want to give it credit for. I'll show you right now. This is my entire account. It looks stacked at first because as a free to play, I do have a lot of 5 stars, and all of these characters, every single one here other than Bronya, is built. Japard is built, Silverwolf is built, Bailu I actually recently built, Acheron is built, Himiko, Renmei. Everybody here has a fully functioning build, so they're ready to be used at any time. But if you may look a little bit further, you can see I have some very key characters in the meta missing. I don't have Sunday, I don't have Robin, my Tribi isn't even really built like that. I guess it doesn't matter too much. I don't have Caceres, I don't have Mighty, right? I don't even have RMC built. I'm still using the Harmony Trailblazer. I don't really have the greatest units. I have the Herda E0S1, but that's about it. I've been using Sparkle ever since she came out. I've been using Renmei ever since she got her rerun last summer, and that's how I've been managing to get by just fine. I understand I'm yapping, but my point here is that a lot of people, they're complaining about power creep, all this kind of stuff. I talked about this in my power creep video, and I'll talk about it here. You're replacing units that you quite literally don't have to. And I will just say this right now, if you care about getting these 0 cycle clears, you just want to get 0 cycles in MOC and that's all you care about, in that case, yes, the power creep is going to be excessive for you, but that is a challenge that you set up yourself, so just get ready to deal with that long term. But for the average player who's just trying to clear the end game, you don't need to be pulling all these crazy units left and right. Ever since Amphorius dropped, matter of fact, ever since... Oh my god, for a while now, like, I pulled the Herda and that's it, right? Like, I skipped every other DPS that has come out ever since Firefly. I did get Face Shao on her rerun, but even then, I've only ever used my Face Shao one time, right? It was in this most recent Apocalyptic Shadow, then I've never used my E0S1 Face Shao, right? I mainly just used 2 DPSs, my E0S1 Herda, and I only got her, like, on this patch, and my E0S0 Firefly, which is still working just fine. I use her in MOC, use her in Apocalyptic Shadow, I don't use her in Pure Fiction, obviously. So what I'm trying to get at here is a lot of people are replacing units that they don't have to. So at the end of the day, the power creep in Honkai Star Rail, and I am talking about the endgame as a whole, but power creep is a big part of it. The power creep is not that bad. If you care about power creep, right, just hold on to your older units. You're gonna have to find workarounds to use them in newer team comps, right? The reason why I didn't get Caceres is because I don't want to build up an entire new, brand new team comp just for one single DPS. I already did that with Firefly, and that was a pain because I had to build up Harmony Trailblazer. I had to get RMC or Renmei in the same patch, and I ended up building Gallagher, but I replaced him simply because I just like Lingsha. Otherwise, I wouldn't even have gotten her. I would still be using my E6 Gallagher to this day. That was already enough of a chore. I don't want to do that with every single brand new DPS that I've gotten, so I don't go for every new DPS. I don't go for every single new Harmony. I got Tribby just because Renmei was getting boring, and I, believe it or not, I regret getting Tribby because she's overkill. I can get by without Tribby on my account so easily. She made, you know, zero difference on my account. So much for the best Harmony in the game. Renmei is still good enough, right? Sometimes I purposely use Renmei instead of Tribby just to add that extra challenge factor because the endgame has gotten easy. Power creep is extremely exaggerated by two things, which are both, they're connected. Number one is the content creators. Content creators push out this agenda like crazy for the hell of it, right? A lot of them are wrong, right? I'm not afraid to call that out, but I'm not gonna say names because I don't want any drama, but I will say a lot of the biggest content creators in this game perpetuate negativity, toxicity. They're all, sometimes they are right, but a lot of the time they're wrong, right? And this is mainly because of Pride When. So many people just look at Pride When, they take it at face value, and then they say that their favorite character that came out 3 patches ago, they went from tier 0 to tier 0.5, which, for a while, that was how things have gotten. But you also have to realize that not all DPSs are the same. Casterus may be better than the Herda in some scenarios, but she's a lot harder to get up and running than the Herda, who is more flexible, right? Fei Xiao may have higher damage multipliers than Firefly, but she's only good in single target scenarios, and a lot of the time Firefly is just going to be a better option regardless. Acheron was better than Jinglu, but Acheron is, she was and still is to this day extremely difficult to get up and running, to the point where I have an E0 S1 decently built Acheron and I still cannot use her, not because of power creep, but because I don't have any units for her, right? I don't want to build up a new team comp for her, so I refuse to. And now that I've already addressed power creep, I want to talk about the other thing that could potentially make Honkai Star Rail's endgame difficult: HP inflation. This is a lot more, I guess, direct, right? People say that the HP inflation in this game is ridiculous, and honestly, I disagree. HP inflation does directly lead to power creep. I'm not saying that there isn't power creep. Of course there is, right? I'm not going to use Jinglu over the Herda. But people exaggerate just how badly Jinglu has actually fallen off. She can keep up in a lot of scenarios, and I don't even think that she needs a buff, honestly. I think the buff for Jinglu is just going to be overkill. Anyone who can, use Jinglu, if you have a decent team comp for her, right? Robin, Sunday, whatever, Aventurine, maybe not Aventurine, Hyacinth, you will go crazy with Jinglu pre 3.4 before she even gets that buff. There are MOCs post 3.0 which I have cleared using Jinglu, right? A decent team comp with Jinglu, no meta Harmony units, and this was before I even got Trippy. So I don't think the HP inflation is that bad. With the newer DPSs, they can deal with it pretty easily. Like the Herda especially, I can clear in 2 cycles, 3 cycles, 4 cycles in MOC. Apocalyptic Shadow, a little bit difficult because the Herda is not really made for that. And then Pure Fiction, the Herda has gotten a score of 40,000 pretty much every single time ever since I got her. Ever since she came out, I've been able to get 40,000 on one side with the Herda. The HP inflation, honestly, I think it's exaggerated. I think the HP inflation is the main thing that makes the endgame difficult. That, along with the shilling of specific DPSs, which does lead to DPS fall off, which is not power creep, but that's a topic that's a whole nother can of worms, right? I think HP inflation, I think the HP of the enemies as of this current patch and just overall recently, I think it makes the endgame difficult and fun. It's a challenge, but it's not impossible, right? I purposely skip a lot of these core units for the meta, right? I don't have Hyacinth, Robin, Sunday, Cassius. I don't have any of them, not even Mighty. Still, I'm getting by just fine. And, if I had those units, this endgame would be a cakewalk. I could do it blindfolded with those units. Auto battle, right? I think the HP inflation just makes it fun. I think it makes it a decent challenge. It is not impossible, but I understand that with the older units you will have a harder time doing it, and 4-star only clears unless you're that skilled of a player is just out of the question. But is that even a bad thing? Honestly, I don't think it is. I think that, Honkai Star Rail is shifting away from the whole casual mindset, right? Like, a lot of people view this game as a casual game, and you can play it as one, but I don't think that that is where the game wants to be headed towards long term, right? Especially when you take a look at its previous game, like Honkai Impact, right? That game, you can play it casually, but the meta is really, really difficult, right? There's power creep, there's enemies with ridiculous HP, right? The HP inflation, all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing in that game, always has been. And I think that's the approach that Honkai Star Rail wants to take. I just think that for a casual, even for a casual, you should be able to get max stars without too much difficulty, right? I think at the end of the day, just people just aren't. I don't want to, I don't want to throw shade, but I think that people just aren't skilled enough with the units that they already have on their account. You don't need these top tier units to clear the endgame, right? Me having the Herda alone at E0 S0, let alone her light cone, is enough for me to keep up with the meta for 3 patches, right? If it wasn't for the Herda, I would not be clearing this game even with Tribi. All you need, if you really care, just get one meta unit, you should be fine, right? But that's about it for this video. I don't think the power creep is that bad. I understand that 1.x DPSs are really, they have aged, but I don't think that that is even a bad thing, right? I don't think that a 2-year-old DPS should be able to go crazy the way, like in Genshin Impact. I don't know. I personally never really liked that about Hoyoverse's older games anyways. Not necessarily Honkai Impact, but specifically Genshin, where the power creep was so slow that it never existed. You could use a DPS from 4 years ago and it would still work perfectly fine. Do I think that that needs to change in Genshin though? No, that's a different game. I think Genshin has established itself as a casual game at this point. I don't think that the power creep in that game should be bad, but for this game, I think it is different. I don't think it should be bad, and I don't think it is bad. I think that the direction is that the game's headed in is perfectly fine. I think the HP of the enemies is perfectly fine. And one final time, I'm speaking as somebody who I don't spend any money on this game. I'm not like a whale. I haven't even bought with a 5-star from this. I'm still holding on to my little golden ticket. But I don't spend money. I'm not even I don't have the ego set on any character. I don't speed tune like that. I just build my characters normally and I just have fun with the game and I max star. It took me an hour to clear Apocalyptic Shadow. It was a fun 1 hour. It sucks to have to wait 2 weeks for the next endgame mode to reset. But I think that the endgame in this game is, I think it's a little too easy. But for the most part, I think it's fine. It's casual friendly. I don't think that it wants to be casual friendly, hence why they've started power creeping units. But I think it's fine. But I'm just gonna end off this video here. I don't want to repeat myself, so I'll see you. Goodbye.